with my Bible study videos. I'm so excited. I haven't filmed the last 2 videos because I've been sick, so we've missed 2 weeks together. This is our 3rd week and I'm finally back. So I don't know if I've mentioned it already, but I missed the last 2 weeks because I've been sick. The first week I was sick and I didn't go to Bible study class, so I didn't do my Bible study. Last week I was still sick, but I did have to go to work because I had already agreed to go to work and I didn't realize that it fell on Wednesday. I don't know how I agreed to go into work on Wednesday because I've been declining going into work on Wednesdays because I've already been off, so if someone will call me and ask me to come in, I will tell them no because I have my Bible study class. But somehow I agreed to go in last Wednesday and didn't realize that it was Wednesday. I don't know. So I went into work and I felt terrible, and the very next day I started to feel better. So I've been slowly getting better for about a week now, and it's been about the same. I started to get, I got better, and then it still stayed. It plateaued again. It just still stayed the same. But today I think I feel officially better than I have for the last week that I've been getting better. So maybe it's finally going away, but anyways, I am about to crank out 3 videos for you because we are behind and I'm getting us caught up. So I'm going to quickly go over our last 2 lessons and our current lesson, which is supposed to go up tomorrow anyway, and I'm going to separate it into 3 videos so that you don't have to watch all of it at once, and it will still be broken up on my channel so that you can go in and watch each segment. So today, for this specific, well, today we're going to cover all 3 lessons because I'm about to sit down and film all these, but for this video we're going to cover 1 lesson, and that is going to be lesson, give me a minute, I'm behind, 20. Yeah. Alright, that's going to be lesson 20. So that's what this video is going to be about today. And I'm going to quickly go through them because the last video that I put up was 30 minutes long, and I don't think I ever intended for these to be that long. I think I just wanted to kind of go over some highlights and some high points and then let you read on your own if you wanted to study further. And I just wanted to basically give you an outline, I guess is what I'm trying to say. So I am trying to do that. And so I'm going to try to make this video a little bit more of an outline instead of like a very in-depth study. And I hope that you will still take something important from it. And stop. If you want to study even further, of course you will read on your own and you will see the very same things that I'm talking about in your own study. I don't think it's going to be something that you have to sit down and really study. I think that if I can give you an outline and then you can go and read on your own, then you will be able to see the outline in the chapter as you read it yourself and be able to take some things from it on your own. And if you have any questions or come up with any questions, please come back to this video and comment because I'd be glad to answer them. And if I don't have an answer for them, I'd be glad to find an answer with you or help study that with you or whatever. So please don't be afraid of discussion because I'm open to discussion, and if I don't know an answer, I will tell you. And let's see. I guess that's all I have to say. I guess we're going to go ahead and jump into lesson 20. Yeah. I thought that when I sat down I was going to mention to you that this, I just wanted to tell you a little bit about my day, I guess, because this is the first thing that I've done since I woke up this morning and I haven't had breakfast yet. So I wanted to mention to you that I have my glass of tea. This is our snack time and discussion time, so everyone better have their snacks. And I have a glass of tea. I don't have a snack. But I am hungry for breakfast, and I chose not to waste time eating breakfast because I wanted to get these videos done because everyone is out of the house right now. And it's quiet, and I wanted to get these videos done. This is a bad place to film. I had to set up 2 lights because if I just sit here and the light shines in behind me, then it casts a shadow over my face, and I'm dark and everything else around me is light. So I put these 2 lights in front of me to hope that that would balance it out, and I think it has. I can see myself in the viewfinder, so I think we're pretty good. Anyways, so this is the first thing that I've chosen to do this morning. I've been up for a couple of hours, and I put some chicken in the crock pot. I'm very excited about that. I made some, they're chicken drumsticks, and I just poured barbecue sauce on top of them and put a little bit of water in the bottom, and that's going to be my dinner for tonight. So I hope it turns out pretty good. I'm just kind of winging it. But I did that, and that's about all I've done today. I've only been up for a couple of hours. I made some tea to come in here and sit down and talk, and I'm ready to do these videos with you. I'm so excited. Okay, so that's all I've been doing, and I may look a little bit laid back. That is because I haven't really gotten dressed yet. And I think that's okay, because that's what these videos are about. Chit-chat, discussion, relaxation, and eating food. Okay, let's get started with lesson 20. Okay. We're in some trouble because I've got to do some back studying myself before I say everything wrong. Okay, every time I get back into these lessons, I have to give myself a refresher on exactly what's going on. Otherwise, if I jump right in, I get lost. And I always jump right in and I get lost, and then I'm like, oh, I need to go back and refresh myself. So I'm going to refresh you, and I need to refresh myself before I can even refresh you, even though we went over these lessons just yesterday. And it's still hard to get back into. So I'm going back to Revelation chapter 8, I guess, because it does get confusing. First we start off with our seals of the scrolls, and I think there were 7 scrolls, and each seal of each scroll was popped open, and something happened after each scroll was opened. And we covered all of those scrolls up until scroll 6, and then we began to study the 7th scroll. And I remember I was really excited to study the 7th scroll because I thought, okay, that's going to be it. That's going to be when God comes back and all of the cool stuff's going to happen. But no. More stuff happened within the opening of the 7th scroll, and we're still covering that. So that is why when I go back into a new lesson, I get confused because we're in the middle of that scroll opening, and I'm like, wait a minute, what has happened? So there's been 6 scrolls to have been opened so far, and we are now opening our 7th scroll. And I'm just going to quickly skim over Revelation chapter 8 so I can make sure I get all of this correct for you. Okay, I already misspoke. So it wasn't 7 scrolls, it was 7 seals on 1 scroll. So I remember now Jesus being the only one worthy to take the scroll, and it had 7 seals on it. And as he opens each seal, something happens. So we've covered the first 6 seals, and now we're going to cover the 7th seal. And that is where I'm not sure where we left off in lesson 19, but that's an overall outline of where we left off at. So now I'm going to give you a refresher of the last few things that we talked about. Okay. In lesson 18, we covered the opening of the first 6 seals, so that part was correct, what I said. And then in lesson 19, which is the one that we covered last week, we began to look at the opening of the 7th seal. At the opening of the 7th seal, there was first a pause in heaven, and the angels were told not to do anything until they can mark the 144,000. Okay, and I think the sealing of the 144,000 basically summed up chapter 7. So in 19, we also moved on to chapter 8. In lesson 19, we also moved on to chapter 8, and we covered, at that point, there was a silence in heaven for about a half an hour, and then we talked about the opening of the 7th seal. So, the opening of the 7th seal, which is what we covered in lesson 19, which is the very last lesson, so I'm giving you a refresher. This is why it gets confusing. At the opening of the 7th seal, there were 7 angels, each given a trumpet. During lesson 19, we covered what happened after the first 4 angels sounded their trumpet. So in lesson 20, we moved on to the 5th, 6th, and 7th angels sounding their trumpets. Okay, so now we are caught up. We covered the first 4 trumpet soundings in lesson 19, and now we are caught up to lesson 20, where we will continue to look at the trumpets sounding. Okay, the 5th angel sounding his trumpet is covered in Revelation chapter 9, verses 1 through 12. So I'm not going to read it to you, but I'm going to briefly summarize what happens at that time, and then we'll move on to the rest of the chapter. Okay, so in Revelation chapter 9, verses 1 through 12, the 5th angel sounds his trumpet, and what happens is a star falls from the sky, and the star is given a key to the abyss, which I believe is Satan. or Satan comes from the bottomless pit, something like that. So he's given a key, and he unlocks the abyss, and out of it comes locusts that sting like scorpions. And the pain of the sting of the locust is that of the sting of a scorpion. And the locusts are told not to harm any of the grass or any of the nature, and only and not to harm the 144,000 who are sealed. And the only thing that they are allowed to do is torture the people on the earth, but they're not allowed to kill them. And one of the verses in there, where is it at? Verse 6 says, "During those days people will seek death but will not find it. They will long to die, but death will elude them." And then it goes on to describe what the locusts look like. But the most important thing is that they are going to be locusts, and they're going to sting like scorpions. And they're not allowed to harm any of the grass or anything like that, which locusts normally do. They're not allowed to harm the 144,000. They're only allowed to harm and torture the people on the earth. And that is the sounding of the 5th trumpet. Okay, so the sounding of the 6th trumpet is covered in chapter 9, verses 13 through 21, which is the rest of the last half of that chapter. And when that trumpet is sounded, there are 4 angels who are waiting and ready to go out and complete this mission, if you want to call it that. And the 6th angel who had the trumpet told the 4 angels, said in verse 14, "Release the 4 angels who are bound at the great river Euphrates." And the 4 angels have been kept ready for this hour and day and month and year, were released to kill 1/3 of mankind. So we did a little bit of math figuring in one of our questions, and if you can recall from one of the previous videos, at the breaking of one of the seals, I don't remember which one it was, 25% of the population was allowed to be killed. So if you want to assume that we have 8 billion in our world, which there's about 8 billion, but if the time comes much later, if we want to say there's 8 billion people in the world and 25% are killed from the very beginning, what was that? Okay, so in this question we did a little bit of math figuring, and if 25% of the population was taken away at the very beginning, which, assuming the population was 8 billion, that would leave you with only 6 billion. So 2 billion people are dead immediately, and you can't bury that many people that fast, or probably at all. So if all of these things are happening one right after the other, all of these people are falling dead around you, and there's nothing you can do to bury them. You can't cover up the smell or anything like that. That sounds terrible. So at this point, the 6th angel is told to release the 4 angels who are being kept at the river Euphrates, and they are allowed to kill 1/3 of the remaining population. And they are going to do that by plagues of fire, smoke, and sulfur that come out of their mouths. And there's also in the horses that there's an army. So in the horses that they ride on, the tails of the horses were like snakes, having heads with which they inflict injury. So I don't guess the horse's tails will kill you, but they'll hurt you. And that was found in verse 19. So they are going to take over and kill 1/3 of the remaining population. So right now we are left with 6 billion. And I'm going to divide that by 3, and that leaves you with 2 billion. Okay, so that's insanity, because we went from 8 billion people in the world down to only 2 billion people. So you have 3/4 of your population wiped out, probably pretty quickly. And again, you have no way to bury those people, and they're just continuously rotting as all of these things continue to happen. So the smell must be horrible, and I was explaining to my husband how crazy it is that as many people as we have in our world today, you can still walk out of your house and, you know, there's not like an immediate rush of people running around the streets. So, you know, you have people in their houses and people are here and there, and when you walk out into the street, you're not just surrounded by a million people. Like, they're just scattered out, you know? And I can only imagine how scarce people will be when 6 billion of them are gone suddenly. There's going to be more dead bodies in the streets than there will be live people. And I just think that's crazy. I mean, if you live out in the country and you imagine your neighbor a mile down the road, and, you know, when this stuff happens, you won't even find someone probably as close as a mile down the road. That's crazy. That's one of the things that I thought about, if you just want to, like, imagine what that would really be like. So that is the sounding of the 6th trumpet. Okay. So that is the sounding of the 6th trumpet, and that is all that we covered in chapter 9. What we covered? Okay. So that was all that we covered in lesson 20 was chapter 9, and that was the sounding of the 2 trumpets, 5th and 6th trumpet. And then at the end of chapter 9, it said that there were still many people who, even after all of this, did not repent and did not turn to the Lord. They continued to worship their own idols. And so now I will go on to read the notes section for you. And this is pretty short. I'm going to show it to you before we get started so that you can decide if you're going to hang out or not. It's this page, and then it's these 2 little columns over here. So it's not that bad. So if you want to bear with me and stay tuned for the reading portion, please do. And the notes section that she puts in here is really good. It really helps to bring everything that we've studied together, for me anyway, especially since I'm like really new at all this. And it's very helpful. So I always learn many things from the notes. So I'm going to start with that part now. And I thank you so much for watching this lesson. We're going to do lesson 21 next, which I'm getting ready to film right now without even turning the camera off. So we're going to be at lesson 21 for the next video, and thank you so much for watching, and I will see you later. Bye. Whew. Okay. This section of the notes covers Revelation 9, 1 through 12, and it says, the destruction of the first 4 trumpets, I don't even know if I was reading that right first. The destruction of the first 4 trumpet judgments dramatically affected the land, oceans, and rivers, as well as the sun, moon, and stars. Yet the angel warned of 3 worse woes to follow. When the 5th angel sounded the trumpet, a star fell from heaven to earth. The star represented an angel who is given the key to open the bottomless pit, a place set aside by God for the confinement of demon spirits or fallen angels. And that is found in 2 Peter 2:4 and Matthew 25:41. It is sometimes called the abyss or Tartarus, the lowest level of Hades, which was the waiting place of the wicked dead. And it references Luke 16:20 through 23. So keep these verses in mind if you want to go back and check her words against what the Bible is actually telling you. Keep those verses in mind if you want to do that. Out of the open pit poured smoke and demon locusts. The smoke, often a sign of judgment, caused the polluted air to block the light of the sun. The creatures that rose up with the smoke were not like common locusts who strip all vegetation as they travel in immense armies over an area. These were not allowed to harm any green thing. The judgment of immense pain they delivered was for the unsealed human population only. Those with God's seal would be spared. Back during the plagues on Egypt, God had caused the same difference to be made between his people and between his people Israel and the Egyptians. And that's found in Exodus 8:22 and verse 23. Stop, Hugo. Evidently, John had never seen anything like these demon creatures and had to use a wide variety of descriptive elements to describe them. He recorded that they had the shape of war horses, heads with crowns, faces like men, hair like that of women, teeth like a lion, breastplates like iron, and wings as noisy as chariots pulled by running war horses. They could not cause death, but could torment a person enough to make him wish for and even attempt to cause his own death. The duration of this judgment was 5 months. The demon locusts were under the command of an angel named Abaddon or Apollyon, which translated means destruction or destroyer. And then this section of the notes covers Revelation 9, verses 13 through 15. The suffering of man will go from bad to worse with the sounding of the sixth trumpet. From the golden altar, which earlier had been the scene of the prayers of the saints rising before God, a voice commands the release of the 4 angels who are bound at the great river Euphrates. The Euphrates River has had a long Bible history. It was one of the rivers of Eden. It was given to Abraham as a boundary for his inheritance of the promised land. It was at one time a boundary for the holdings of Egypt, and then it was taken over by force as part of the kingdom of Babylon. It will be in the scene of one of the bowl judgments later in Revelation. Bound at the river Euphrates were these angels who had been prepared for the hour and day and month and year to be released to kill 1/3 of mankind. Since one fourth will have already been destroyed at the fourth seal judgment, the death of 1/3 of that remaining 3/4 leaves less than 1/2 of the world's original population. Less than half because an indefinite number of people had died at the 3rd trumpet judgment before this. Can you imagine what it would be like if half the people you knew were killed within a 3 or 4 year period? Yeah, it's pretty crazy. While many prophecy students attempt to identify the nationality of this army, it seems from the context that it is a supernatural army in the same way that the locust creatures of the 5th trumpet are not of this world. The horses carrying these 200 million horsemen seem to hold the killing power, while the riders will wear brilliant colored breastplates, evidently unconcerned about the necessity of camouflage. The horses will be real spectacles. They will have heads like lions and mouths breathing fatal doses of fire, smoke, and brimstone. And this very last paragraph that I read starts covering chapter 9, verses 16 through 19. Stop. Okay. And the last of it says, their tails are like serpents and also have the power to harm mankind. Hugo, stop! Okay. And the last portion of the notes right here, this covers Revelation 9, verses 20 and 21. Defying all manner of good sense, the survivors of the 6th trumpet judgment will not repent of their sinful actions and call on God. They will be deeply involved with the occult, demon worship, and idolatry, as well as divorced from any regard for God's plan for moral living. They will prefer to indulge in murder, theft, drug abuse, and sexual immorality. Tragically, these same sins have hold of too many of today's people. We have left the truth of God and have fallen for the lies of Satan. Not even torment or death will wake them up to their need for God. The prophet Joel had written many centuries earlier of attack by such supernatural armies. Through him, God pleaded with his people. And this quotes the scripture, Joel 2, verses 12 through 14. Now therefore, says the Lord, turn to me with all your heart, with fasting, with weeping, and with mourning. So rend your heart and not your garments. Return to the Lord your God, for he is gracious and merciful, slow to anger, and of great kindness. And he relents from doing harm. He knows if he will turn and relent and leave a blessing behind him. Oh, who knows if he will turn and relent and leave a blessing behind him, a grain offering and a drink offering for the Lord your God. And then it asks us, will mankind ever learn? Tomorrow is Friday and our third, the third week, no, it's not the third week, it's like the 5th week. Never mind, forget all that. Tomorrow is Friday, and I believe that makes our 5th video. I think that I have 2 on my channel already, and then I missed the last 2, and then this is the 3rd, so that makes 5. So tomorrow's video will be the 5th video on my channel, and where was I going with that? A little confused. 8 billion times. Shut up.